Bonjour! Today we're going to be talking about an ink that was sent to me by Philippe. Philippe, thanks a lot. This is from a brand we were not really familiar with, Papier Plume. Now, Papier Plume is a website, papierplume.com, in New Orleans, and that's fairly fascinating. Now, we had a bit of an idea that maybe this is a Jet Herbin ink that is being rebottled. We're not absolutely certain, but hey, here you got the ink. Cute little vintage looking bottle with a label that actually looks like it's from an inkjet printer or something, which I think just adds to the charm. Fountain pen and glass pen ink. This is the Forget-Me-Not Blue, bottled in New Orleans with a very cute fleur de lis on top of the cap of the bottle. I think it's very cute. Nice ink. I enjoyed the way it performs. A good ink, had some interesting waterproof qualities. I think it's lovely. So, more than enough talk. I think we need to see this ink in action. That's what we're going to do next. Philippe, again, thanks a lot. Whoops. Thanks for sending me this. I hope this is going to be useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Alright, so here we go with this fascinating Papier Plume. Forget-Me-Not Blue. Let's start with a bit of fine writing. So the first thing I noticed is that even in a not so saturated, fine, dry nib, the writing seems fairly legible. Move up one step to a somewhat wetter, medium nib, and legibility improves significantly. Then we move to a very wet broad. And then an italic. That barely fit, but I got it to fit. Anyway. And then finally, Felix. Look at that. Flow keeps up. Very nice. Let's start to do a couple of passes. And while we are at it, let's do some writing, fat writing. B for blue. Or brown. Huh. Anyway. Bit of medium writing. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Alright. How are we doing on wetness there? Seems pretty dry to me. Then I think we can have a look at the bastard brush. This is still a bit too wet. So then there is, of course, the moment you have all been waiting for, the Tardif test. Followed by the brown benchmark. I think it's time for a third pass. Let me just cap that bottle. And then we can do the eyedropper of death. Okay. And I think we can start to work on our scorecard. Now let's interpret some of the things we've seen here. So, as to shading, I'm not particularly impressed with this blue. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on. In my experience, a lot of blues don't really shade extremely well. There are a few exceptions, but in general, I don't think this is a magnificently shading ink. You do see that in the triple passes it goes from a lighter blue to a darker blue, but the difference is not excessive, so there just isn't a lot of shading going on. It is an intense blue, fairly vibrant. When it comes to waterproofness, to my surprise, I have wiped over this stuff with a wet brush, and all the reading is still legible. Now I expected it to be wiped out. A lot of blues are not really that waterproof. That's kind of nice. Here we get some more shading from darker to lighter. Brown benchmark shows some nice shading. And let's just take a tissue here and get rid of the excess water of the very fat writing. And you see what that does. All of that letter is still there too. So as to waterproofness, I'm fairly impressed by this ink. So let's start to draw up a scorecard. I have already cleaned the pen with this, and I found it very easy to clean. Bleed through is something we'll have to assess later. Color. Blue seems good. Then we have shading. Shading, I would say, is not that great. There is a little bit, but it's just, I mean, it's not that there's nothing, but something in between. Then we have flow. Well, flow I would say is very good. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Feathering, we're going to assess that after the copy paper test, but if you look at this, you see that there's already a bit of feathering going on the Rhodia paper with the flex nib. And if that's on Rhodia paper, then I'm scared of what will happen on Copier paper, so we'll have to see. Drying time, yeah, that seems to be somewhere in the middle. Not extremely fast, not extremely slow. And then finally, waterproofness. Well, with all due respect, all the writing is there. Same thing there. It's definitely faded, but it's there, so I'm giving it full marks on that account. And then we move to Copier paper. see what happens there. Let's start. Focus, focus, focus. Thank you. Let's start with some fine writing. Interesting that in this absorbent paper the color of the ink seems to change a bit. Then we have broad. And then we have an italic nib. Now let's start to look at some flecks. Before I do that, I just want to squeeze some ink out, because I don't really like those results. I find them a little weird. I always clean these pens very well, but for some reason this particular pen sometimes discolors ink or something. I don't know. It's still a different color from these. I don't know. Maybe absorbency of the paper or something. I don't know. Flecks. Foxes and forget-me-nots. An autobiography. I don't know of whom, but it's probably an autobiography of someone. Let's do a little bit of fat writing. I have no clue what odd alphabet I've entered into here. Started off as some weird Gothic bastard, Old English, weird nothing, and this is just strange. Sometimes your handwriting takes over. What do we conclude from all of this? Well, a couple of things. First of all, in the fine pen, the color of the ink really changes. It's absorbed well, and it turns darker. Interesting. Medium, broad, italic, all kind of look the same. And I already start to see feathering in the medium. Now, to be honest, it's not extremely pronounced, but I do see feathering there. In the medium there, and then in the broad, it gets more pronounced. Even there, it is not excessive, but there's definitely feathering going on. then in the flex writing it gets very pronounced, right? I mean, this is very, very visible. In the fat writing, you see it in the bits that are very wet. Okay, now zooming out, I would like to see how we're doing in the field of bleed through. Yeah, it's pretty much as expected. A little bit in medium here and there, quite some in the broad. Then in the italic it's kind of okay, although there's a lot of shade through. And in flex it's just full bleed through. Now if you go to Rhodia paper, as I said already, some feathering in the flex sample. As to bleed through, it seems to be pretty much okay except for the flex writing, 3 passes, etc. So, concluding, I would say the bleed through is a 2 and feathering is a 2 as well. In all, I think it's a good ink. 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11. Now the final thing I'd like to do is a comparison with another ink, and I wanted to use Bleu Myosotis by G. Herbin, but I'm fresh out of it, I'm sorry. And I don't like that ink so much that I just buy a whole bottle of it. So here you got this Papier Plume Forget Me Not, and some loopity loops. I had a little trouble finding a good comparable ink. I ended up with the Caran d'Ache Blue Sky, which I think is also a fairly dark blue, but I'm not entirely convinced that this is a good comparison. Now, the one thing I can show you, it's not the best paper quality I've got here, but this is my ink journal. This is what Bleu Myosotis by Herbin looks like. So you may find that a little bit comparable to the Forget Me Not Blue, except this is a little bit darker, I think. So, there you have it. Thanks again to Philippe for sending me this nice ink. I'd never heard of the brand, but now I do. Put in Inkcyclopedia. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.